Welcome to the 100th anniversary of the UFC Apex cards. This is UFC Vegas 100. Not great card, I wouldn't say. Pretty mediocre card. Still a lot of value to be had. That's kind of what we're most excited about. Sad Cody Garbrandt, last minute dip from the fight. Hopefully, Miles Johns finds a replacement opponent in time. But yeah, there's still a ton of value on this card. So let's jump into it. I included an extra prelim pick just because of the Garbrandt loss. So yeah, let's dive into it.
All right. With that said, we move.
We do.
Cortavius Romeus.
Yep.
He looks like he's scared as shit of the camera, so why should I like him?
Yeah, he does look kind of scared. Either that or he's off something.
One or the other.
Yeah. So you guys, I'm pretty sure saw him beat Michael Imperato on Contender Series this season. It was his second shot at Contender Series after getting knocked out in 30 seconds by Ramon Tavares on Contender Series last season. He's going up against Gaston Bolanos, who's coming off a knockout loss to Marcus McGee. And Cortavius Romeus, like I said, coming off that DWCS win, he's a solid grappler, decent striking, good kicks, definitely has a lot of power in his hands, throws with intent. Good solid takedowns, is good at moving in, and if he doesn't get that takedown, he'll reset, shoot it right away again. He's generally on the ground, he's looking to, I'd say, get a sub more than he is looking to like transition to positions, get control. And Bolanos is definitely more of a striker, solid Muay Thai. He's willing to engage for sure, pretty aggressive. He was a kickboxer ahead of his MMA career, has had a bunch of flashy finishes, including some spinning back elbows. Definitely has some grappling holes, which is I think at least is going to come into play here against Romeus. Pretty decent Muay Thai guard, though. He is coming off that knockout loss, like I said, to Marcus McGee, where he fell behind in the striking, couldn't defend the takedowns. And I think Romeus, this is, I'd say, more low confidence of the picks I have on this card, but we're just getting really good value for him. He's $2.96. Gaston Bolanos is $3.42. I believe Romeus is sitting at around a 2-1 favorite, which I honestly don't think is correct. I think this is probably a closer fight than that, but you're getting great value for him here on Prediction Strike. He's more well-rounded. My only concern is he's a little bit chinny, and Gaston Bolanos is explosive. But he's the pick here. He's more well-rounded. I think he should be able to weather the early storm, get the takedowns. Yeah.
I like it. On to the next one. Denise Gomez. Why should we be a fan of her here?
Yeah, so this is another price spot. I think generally she's kind of being overvalued on this card. She's like 5-1 favorite in most markets, I believe, going up against Carolina Kowalkiewicz. I can't pronounce the last name, so I just call her that. Who's $3.94, and Carolina, she is coming off a 4-fight win streak ending loss to Yasmin Lucindo. Denise is coming off a tough decision win over Eduardo Mora. And Carolina is definitely a vet, been around for a little bit. She's fought for a title before. And she's had her up and downs in the UFC. But tried and true, has fought some of the best ones. She was on a 4-fight losing streak at one point, completely turned it around when she went over to America Top Team, started grappling a little bit more, and then went on a 4-fight win streak. She can grapple now, like she implements it a lot more. She's definitely starting to fade a little bit these days, looking a little bit like the older version of herself. And Denise, she's a striker who can also grapple, very explosive. She's a little bit hittable, but super tough. She's definitely okay with paying to play, so to speak. She always applies forward pressure, throws bombs. She's a little bit low volume sometimes in the first round, but once she gets into her rhythm, she starts to pick it up. She gave up a bunch of takedowns versus Eduardo Mora in her last fight, but dominated the striking in that one. We know how good Eduardo Mora is. I think Carolina's more just going to look to keep her up against the cage. That's generally what she looks to do. She doesn't really shoot those big straight takedowns. And Denise is definitely the pick here. The public obviously agrees with it, and we're getting pretty much pick 'em odds on Prediction Strike. I think Denise is going to exploit the athleticism here. She's super fast, super powerful, definitely has that wrestling in her back pocket. So going with Denise here.
I like it.
Cool. Yeah, this is a great value spot. Basically, another pick 'em odds spot here for a guy that's a big favorite in other markets. Blackshear's $2.93. Cody Stamann is $2.90. And Cody is on a 2-fight losing streak here. So is Blackshear. So one of these guys are going to turn it around. One of these guys are going to continue on to a 3-fight skid. Cody is a well-rounded guy, I would say. He is a wrestler by trade, D1 wrestler. Puts it all together well, pretty good technical striker, decent from rage, sets a good pace. Doesn't have one-punch power, but definitely has the cardio to keep up a good volume throughout the fight. Averages a few takedowns a fight, 2.33 to be exact. He has good takedown defense, as you can see, at 66%. And Damon is, that's 76% for Cody, 66% for Damon. And Damon is an athletic striker. He can grapple as well, takedowns in pretty much all of his fights. He got knocked out super quick, obviously, against Montel Jackson. His last one wasn't able to sneak in a takedown there, but he definitely has that decently well-rounded guy. He has a good amount of UFC losses. They're all pretty high quality. His strength of schedule has been pretty tough. I think he is just going to be the much better striker in this one, should be able to mix in the wrestling well enough. I think Cody probably has the wrestling advantage here, but Blackshear, I just think he should be able to handle it with his athleticism. I mean, in other markets, I don't know if I would touch him again. Like, he doesn't have a ton of high-level wins, but here, I think this is a pretty sharp play.
I like it. All right, on to the next one. We have Denise Gomez. So now on to Mansour Abdul Malik versus Dusko Todorovic. One looks like a My Sims character, and the other one looks like a normal dude.
Yeah, this one I think this one should be a fun one. Mansour is going to be like nearly a 4-1 favorite in other markets. So somewhat reflected here, I guess. If you're on the Abdul side, you might be getting a slightly better price for him on Prediction Strike. And he's undefeated in his career, 6-0. Dusko coming off an unfortunate freak injury loss, I think about a year ago. And Mansour is relatively new to the UFC, very good grappler, D1 wrestler, comes forward, throws heavy, shoots straight takedowns as you would expect a D1 wrestler to do. He's very, very powerful. He does a good job of slamming his opponents on the ground, can just pick them up. Good control, too, when he does get on top of you on the ground. Decent ground and pound. Dusko is a powerful and technical striker. Definitely has good BJJ, offensive BJJ, I would say that, and takedowns to round out that striking. Very high volume, as you can see. He lands 5.54 strikes per minute. Definitely a little bit chinny, though. Christian Leroy Duncan was the one who injured him a year ago. I believe it was a knee injury. And I like Mansour here. I think the wrestling background, explosiveness should get him there. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't really love the value.
Yeah.
It feels like a spot where the value's kind of getting a little out of hand because of the injury that you spoke about. You never really know how fighters are going to return after something like that. But I feel like in a more consensus market, if you're getting a 4-1 odds for Mansour, I would probably lean on the Dusko side just because I like that value better. On PS, the Mansoor side feels like it has some legs, but this is probably a fight I'm staying off on just because there doesn't really seem like a great way to exploit this unless you're
Yeah,
getting into weeds with exact round or type of finish and stuff like that.
totally. I agree. I do think there's some fun like finish. I do think Mansoor ultimately finishes it inside the distance. Dusko, he's pretty good with his offensive grappling. I feel like if they spend a ton of time on the ground, he might even be live there. But I still think Mansoor just gets the controls too powerful for him.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On to the next one. We have Luana Pinheiro versus Jillian Robertson. Yeah, is this going to be a fantasy-friendly match between these two? I guess is a question I should be asking.
Fantasy friendly.
See a lot of takedowns potentially.
Yeah, I think Jillian from a fantasy perspective is a smash this week. Like maybe it depend. I don't know what her price is, but I would imagine she's a must start.
Okay.
She's a beast. Jillian is on a 2-fight win streak. She's obviously a good bit more expensive than Luana is. And Luana is a pretty powerful striker. She's good, decently technical, does have some offensive wrestling, decent offensive BJJ, averages a couple takedowns a fight, 2.24, comes forward at you pretty much consistently. Has a couple a good amount of knockdowns, I would say, in like a third of her fights. She did, however, just get submitted by Angela Hill. Jillian is, I would say, probably the most skilled grappler in this division. She has 9 wins by submission. Striking is not the best at all. Like Luana definitely has a path to piece her up on the feet, especially if she's able to defend the takedowns. I just don't think she's going to be able to here. Takedown defense is pretty mids. Jillian is really, really skilled, not only in the grappling, but in getting those takedowns. She's no quitter either. I think she's eventually just going to get this to the ground, no matter how hard Luana's hitting, how technical her striking is.
All right. Okay. Anything to add on this one? Or are we on to the next one?
No, agree with Jackson.
Yeah. I feel like Jillian is a pretty popular pick this week.
Makes sense. I know you like to hype up Mearshart. I have a feeling we're going to be doing it again.
Yes, sir.
So why should we be interested in Mearshart versus Rainier D. Ritter or Riddler?
Quickly, are we skipping the Tercios fight? I think that was.
I think it might just be in the wrong order.
Okay.
Yeah, that's next.
Yeah, we can start with this one.
Cool. Yeah. So it's not all going to be favorites winning these fights, guys. You got to pick a dog every once in a while.
Got to get some dogs in there.
Yeah, my dog this week is GM3 going up against the UFC newcomer Rainier de Ritter. And these guys are really similar fighters, very grappling heavy. Mearshart coming off the underdog, come from behind win over Edmund Shabazian. Rainier, at one point in his career, was the 2 Division 1 FC champion. I'll kind of preface that by saying there's like a bunch of fighters who have been 2 division champs. Like the guy he got his 2 belts from, I think he got his 2 belts from the same guy and lost both belts to a different guy. So like bunch of multi division champs in there. He's still really good though.
He got knocked out twice in those fights to lose the belts.
Yeah, he first lost the 205 belt, then the 185 belt. But he is very good. Still solid grappler, like I said, good takedown subs. Long for this division, uses that length to wrap you up on the ground. Striking, not the worst, not the cleanest. Definitely path to victories to get you on the ground. Gerald is the same way, probably a little bit more proficient in the striking department, but a very good grappler. Always live for a submission. Pretty powerful on the feet, just generally a tough guy. Takedowns, I will say, are not the best, but he does work very well off his back. He's no stranger to needing to get taken down in order to turn the fight around in his favor. That's pretty much exactly what happened against Edmund Shabazian in his last fight. And I think Rainier obviously has the potential to beat him here. I just don't know if he'll be able to get a sub just because of how comfortable on the ground Gerald is, how tough he is. And I honestly am kind of sus by what we've seen recently from Rainier to Ritter. He basically just quit completely in 2 fights ago when he gave up his belt. That was at a different division, but it's like Gerald Mearshart is one of those guys who we've seen countless times win a fight in the 3rd round. And this guy just absolutely quit to give up his belt. And Mearshart is so tough. They have the exact same style of fighting. Like, I could totally see GM3 having the advantage in this fight, especially if it gets out of the 1st round, which I definitely think it will. I don't really see Rainier finishing Gerald. So I'm going to take a swing on GM3 this week. I'll probably have some money on him somewhere. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, the value's pretty tough to deny. I do think a Rainier by sub situation is pretty valid in this scenario. You see the takedown defense for Mearshart at only 34%. Rainier has found victory in most of his fights in his past competitions via submission. He's pretty strictly submissions or decisions in his last 10 or so fights, aside from the 2 he lost, obviously. But he had a streak there for a few years where he finished every fight by submission, had like 8 submissions in 9 fights. Pretty technical there, very experienced in the submission game. 11 of his wins are coming by submission. So I think if this fight does end inside the distance, it'll probably be by a Rainier sub. That feels like the most likely option on how this one ends if you were picking a singular outcome. So I feel like if you want some value on that side, the submission is definitely the way to look. But I can totally see the counterpoints you're bringing up for sure.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe Rainier could be like literally the next GM3 in this division.
Yeah, he's also pretty old already as well. So
yeah, true. He's only 3 years younger, but
it's kind of a situation where he's going to need to get a win here, or like his time in the UFC could potentially be short-lived here, but we shall see.
It's Jover, as they say. But yeah, on to the next one. Ricky Tertius versus Bernardo Sopaj. I feel like I've seen this Bernardo guy before. I don't know why, but he looks familiar.
This is his 2nd fight in the UFC. He got flying kneed in his 1st fight, so maybe you saw a clip of that one.
That sounds about right. Ricky Tertius, I remember this guy coming in with so much hype.
And against Raul Rosas.
Yeah, and he's just been awful. He's
kind of a cone. This feels like a spot where the UFC signed a guy in Sopaj. He lost his 1st fight. I believe he had 1 fight canceled since then, but yeah, he got flying kneed in that one. Not too sure of how it was going before then, but obviously not the way you want your UFC debut to end. And this feels like a situation where they give him kind of a get right spot, and this price discrepancy on PS is pretty undeniable here. You're looking at a pretty much minus 400-ish favorite anywhere else you would look on the Bernardo Sopaj side. So this feels like a spot where, yeah.
Oh, he was 2.5 to 1 like a day ago.
Yeah, the money's coming in heavily. You also have a younger guy, a prospect that I think the UFC must see something in. Had an unfortunate way to end his 1st fight, but this feels like a spot where they give him an opponent that they know is favorable in order to kind of build back up that stock so you can get the career going at only 24 as well. So plenty of time to rise. This price feels like a great spot, even if you don't necessarily know which way to lean in this fight. This feels like a must invest spot, and it's also a low enough price that you'll have plenty of room to grow. And in a few fights, he could be sitting around the $5 range or something like that. So you never know. Time to get in for sure, it feels like.
Yeah, pretty much ditto what Grant said. I'm not really reading too much into that loss to Vinicius Oliveira. If anything, His takedown defense looked pretty good in that, so that should fare well against Ricky Turcios' 25% takedown accuracy. If Turcios had any power in his hands whatsoever, I might be a little bit worried about Sapaj in this one, but all he has going for him is that like speed and volume. So I think Sapaj should be able to get the takedowns, maybe even get a knockout. He hits far harder than Turcios. So yeah, the Lion King is going to be the pick here.
Right on. All right. Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. The fight of the year. Some are saying.
Everyone loves a good 8-1 main event.
Everyone loves it, especially with Muay Thai tatted on your chest. So walk me through why I should be obsessed with this fight.
Well, if you look at the value that we are providing you with in this scenario, compared to that 8-1 situation we were looking at, we were just speaking about, you're getting him here at underdog odds, which is pretty tough to turn down in any scenario. So I mean, I just feel like the Prates side here has a lot of legs. Magny's been a valiant gatekeeper in the later end of this division for quite some time now, but this feels like a situation where Prates is closer to the level of the opponent that Magny tends to lose to. And this feels like another situation where Magny lets another guy creep up in the rankings in this division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say on this one. I think he's going to add to the nine fight knockout streak here. Prates by knockout.
Love it. All right, on to the next one. Well, sorry.
That's all we got. Unfortunately, we don't have Cody.
Like, this is not the most entertaining card, as you can tell by my expression throughout this. This is the kind of, we've used up everything that we love, so here's what we have left.
Yeah.
But a lot of times this type of card is where you can find your value, because
that is true.
There's not a ton of people watching. There's more random guys who you haven't necessarily seen fight a ton before, so the jury is kind of still out on where their odds are going to be set. So if you feel like you have a lean or you have some info on a situation, you can get in early and kind of make your money here. So
you can cook, as the young youth say.
Yep.
But yeah, that's about it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Invest accordingly. Jackson and Grant always do a great job of helping you guys find the best fighters to invest in. And yeah, have fun. Stay safe out there. Until next time. Peace, y'all.
Peace.